We move on to item 11, all the legs. And I'll move this recommendation. And Councillor Newman, do you second that? Yeah. So Paul again, and just want to also acknowledge McLean. So Paul, I'll hand it over to you.
So I just take the opportunity to introduce McLean Grindle, who's been working on this with partners in Kāinga Ora. So really what this is given the scale of Kāinga Ora's development in South Auckland, it presents a one-off opportunity really to address some open space issues within the South. And by way of context, what we're looking to do is really apply the same approach that we did in the last term with Northcote. So it involves a series of different transactions. There is acquisition, land exchange, acquisition at no cost, as well as leveraging upgrades to the stormwater network, in particular to improve connectivity in and around Tararata Creek and into Moyle Park. So what we have here is the proposed acquisition. So this is an area where there is a gap in open space provision. And you also have the community in West Mangere that's hemmed in somewhat by the motorway that runs through there. So the idea is to acquire two pieces of open space that will connect together on both sides of Tararata Creek, that will provide a neighbourhood park function as well as a connectivity function, with the idea that we're creating a sort of a north-south connection and a east-west connection across that community. And as part of that, Tararata Creek will be upgraded with walking and cycling connections that extend into Moyle Park at the beginning. And that becomes really important in that community, particularly for those young people that are travelling to Mangere College. They will be able to travel through our Greenways network and through the park network in order to get to and from school and hopefully stay away from most of the main roads through there. So acquisition is expected to take place in 2022. The costs we've estimated are in the vicinity of 1.6 million, and it's important to note that that 1.6 million would be funded from development contributions. So Kāinga Ora has been very clear that they will be paying development contributions on the 702 new household use equivalents that will be created through that development. And you see the scale of the development in this community. So all of those green areas indicate where Kāinga Ora is intensifying development. So what we're proposing is that there's a new park that will meet the open space needs for the 2,000 more people that will come in through that intensification, and actually that existing community that lacks the open space provision against our open space provision policy. The resolution talks about acquisition of up to some square meterage, and that's because there's another component to this. As part of that development, Auckland Transport is road stopping a number of those roads. So the land that sits with Auckland Transport will transfer to Auckland Council as part of the internal asset transfer policy, which may well mean that we don't end up acquiring the 3,006 square metres, which would be the total entirety of those two open spaces. So it may well be considerably less than that 1.6 million, but that has yet to be resolved. So that's the open space acquisition, and then we move into a couple of land exchanges. If I just go back so people can orientate themselves, the first one is at the bottom into Moyle Park, which is a sports park that is particularly well used in this location. What we have at the moment, picture very narrow access into Moyle Park, which creates what we would describe as sipped head issues. So that's where you have sort of health and safety issues, where you don't have lines of sight into it, which can lead to antisocial type activities. What Kāinga Ora is proposing is to move our access a couple of lots down the road, and it'll be considerably wider than it is at the moment, which is about 1.8 metres wide. The image on the other side gives you an indication of what is proposed, and Kāinga Ora is going to, as well as giving council additional land at no capital cost, is going to meet the costs of development. So that includes LED lighting, which was specifically requested by the local board, the paving, the planting. And And as part of that, I think Kaingaroa is proposing that they will use part of that access to have access to their properties on either side of the walkway. So you see the combination of both improved housing outcomes and open space outcomes. The last one is a land exchange, but this is effectively where we're going to move, or proposing to move, the park further down the road. So we have Mayflower Park at the moment, which has very narrow access. So you can see one picture, that's one access to it, and then the picture underneath gives you the sense of what the other access way into the park. There's a little bit of ground truthing equipment on there at the moment. Normally it's just a piece of grass that hasn't been developed at all. So as part of the proposal is to move the park. It will have road frontages on 3 sides, and Kaingaroa has agreed to meet $290,000 of the cost of development. So the community will have a park that has been developed in place of a park that is just grass at the moment. And with those road frontages, there will be considerably improved SIPTED outcomes as well. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Paul and McLean. Thank you both. Councillor Simpson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, this makes pretty good sense. Thank you. I just want to check on the first one, the open space. So you're saying that the worst case scenario is 1.6 million. You think it should be less, but that's the worst case scenario. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. And our estimates that Kaingaroa will pay about $5 million in development contributions.
Okay. Councillor Watson. Question.
I just wanted to quickly say, Mr. Chair, that I think that improvement to Moyle Park will really help that whole area. I mean, it is used by a lot of people and can look a little bit sparse as you drive by on the motorway there. So that's all for the good. Thank you.
And just to that, Councillor Watson, I've asked Mace and his team around the parks to make sure that they're in the loop with what happens there with that connectivity to Moyle. So yeah, look, are there any further comments or question or comment, Your Worship? Yeah, so we're moved into comments, so Your Worship, yours and your must be closer.
Look, yeah, I know the area quite well. My wife comes from around that way. But look, it's not only, I mean, these are great transfers, so well done, Paul and McLean. But actually, the Kaingaroa housing, Alf, you know better than most as your ward councillor. Well, I remember when they put the houses up on Beta Drive, the little square boxes, back in the, I shudder to say, the 60s and the 70s, these new houses are going in, they're actually substantial houses. And this is a great example of urban renewal where we're getting better housing, but we're getting better public open spaces as well. So I feel really positively about it. Well done.
Thank you. If there's no...
How much will it cost for a sign next to the motorway that says this has been funded by your rates? Thank you very much.
I'll just...
Sorry, Mr. Chair, that was a facetious comment.
No, I will talk to some of the boys around there, and I have no doubt at all that they'll go onto the property even without permission to put that sign up.
I could say Alf Filipina was behind this great development.
No, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, yeah, hard. 275 represent. So look, Paul, to both of you. McLean, thank you so much. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. We're moving to